Have you ever wondered how a nation can be shaped not just by people or politics, but by the very land it's built on? Well, today, we're diving into the incredible story of Bangladesh, a country that was literally forged and is still being reforged by the immense power of water. All right, so here's how we're going to break this down. First, we'll look at how this land was literally born from water. Then, we'll get into the annual floods and how they act as both a creator and a destroyer. After that, we'll explore the absolutely ingenious ways people have adapted to this shifting world, see how great cities rose and fell with the rivers, and finally, wrap it all up by understanding the deep, lasting legacy of water on this civilization. So let's start at the very beginning, the foundation of it all. You have to understand, Bangladesh isn't just a country on a map. It's basically the flattened-out, river-built extension of the Himalayas. The scale of the natural forces at play here is, well, it's just staggering.
Get this. Every single year, the rivers here carry over 1 billion tons of silt from the Himalayas down into the Indian Ocean. Now, this isn't just mud. It's the literal building block of the country. It forms the world's largest underwater delta, the Bengal fan. The country is actually physically growing year after year.
And to give you a sense of the sheer power we're talking about, just look at the Brahmaputra River. At some points, it is an incredible 18 kilometers wide. That's not really a river, is it? It's a moving sea of fresh water, powerful enough to carry mountains, piece by piece, down to the ocean. And the process itself is actually pretty simple, but it is relentless. You see it here. Snow melts in the mountains, forming these colossal rivers. They carve through the land, picking up soil as they go. Then, when they finally reach the sea, they slow down, and they drop everything they're carrying. That deposited silt is what builds one of the most fertile and dynamic landscapes on Earth. So, here's the key thing to remember. Life in Bangladesh is defined by a constant conversation with water in 3 forms. You've got the life-giving rivers, you've got the torrential monsoon rains that swell those rivers, and you have the salty seawater from the Bay of Bengal pushing back. Each one plays a critical role, and each one has the power to both create and destroy. And that brings us right to the central paradox of life in the Delta, the flood. It's a double-edged sword that shows up every single year. It's an event that is both feared and, in a way, welcomed as the ultimate creator and destroyer. And this slide just captures that duality perfectly. The very same water that drops off that rich agricultural silt, making the land incredibly fertile, can also wash away homes, destroy an entire season's harvest, and tragically even take lives. Living with that constant give and take creates this really unique relationship with the environment. It's a constant high-stakes bargain with nature. And the negative side can be absolutely catastrophic. Just think about this for a second. The 1988 floods cost the country more than its entire national development budget for that year. Imagine that. A single flood wiped out a whole year's worth of progress. It just shows you how powerful these forces can be. So, with this constant change and this ever-present threat, how do people actually live here? I mean, this is where the story gets really fascinating. It shifts from geology to just incredible human resilience and adaptation. Well, what they did was adapt by not getting too attached to any one spot. Settlements are flexible and temporary on purpose. Instead of giant, permanent cities, you find these small hamlets. Relocating and rebuilding isn't seen as a disaster, it's just part of the rhythm of life. Their entire existence is built around this idea of impermanence. And the ingenuity, it doesn't stop there. It extends right into their agriculture. This is one of my favorite examples, jelly dawn, or floating rice. It's a special kind of rice that's been developed over centuries that can literally grow as the floodwaters get higher. Its stem just keeps elongating, keeping the grain above the water. It's not just adapting to the water, it's literally coexisting with it. Amazing. Now, this amazing ability to adapt allowed populations to grow, and that led to complex societies, and eventually some really great cities. But here's the catch. Even those big cities were just as vulnerable to the whims of the water as the smallest village. And we're talking about a deep, deep history here. While there are claims of very early human presence, we know for sure that by 1500 BCE, farming was well established. By the 5th century BCE, you had major urban centers popping up, and by the 3rd century BCE, Mahastangargarh was a key capital. So civilization is absolutely not new to this land. But the fate of these cities was always tied directly to the rivers. Just look at these 2 great port cities. Tamraupli thrived for centuries, but then the river that fed its port just shifted. The port silted up, and the city withered away. Centuries later, The great city of Gaur, one of the largest in the region, met the exact same fate when the Ganges simply moved away from it. The river that gives life can just as easily take it all away.
This fluid landscape also completely shaped the politics. I mean, think about it. The constantly changing land made it incredibly difficult for any single centralized empire to hold on to power for very long. What you got instead was this pattern of smaller, temporary kingdoms. There's an ancient phrase for it, Matsya Nyayam, basically the law of the fish, where the big fish eat the small fish. It was a state of constant political flux.
So, as we start to bring this all together, a really clear and powerful theme emerges. The geography of the Bengal Delta isn't just some passive backdrop to the country's history. No, it is the primary force that has written its story from day one. And this, right here, is the crucial takeaway. From the farmer planting that floating rice to the king whose capital city vanished when a river changed its mind, the entire history of this civilization is a story of negotiation. It's a constant dance between incredible human resilience and the absolutely immense power of nature. And that leaves us with a final, and I think very relevant thought. As our modern world grapples with climate change and rising sea levels, what lessons can we learn? What can we take away about resilience, about adaptation, about accepting impermanence from a people who have lived on a shifting, water-bound frontier for thousands of years?